Black cats and goblins and broomsticks and ghosts, covens of witches with all of their hosts. You may think they scare me, you're probably right. Black cats and goblins on Halloween night. Trick or treat. Halloween, the night of October 31st, the eve of All Saints' Day. Commonly celebrated by children who dress in a costume and solicit candy and other treats door to door. On Halloween night 1974, in Pasadena, Texas, Ronald Clark O'Brien, known to some as the Candyman and to others as the man who killed Halloween, did something so evil that it shocked the world. Timothy O'Brien and his sister Elizabeth waited for their father Ronald to get home from work so they could all go trick-or-treating. 8-year-old Timothy was wearing a Planet of the Apes costume similar to the one in the picture. He went door to door trick-or-treating, collecting candy on Halloween night. One of the houses that young Timothy stopped by, the homeowner gave him 5 giant pixie sticks. At the end of the evening, Ronald O'Brien gave 2 of the pixie sticks to his neighbour's 2 children and 1 each to his own children, Timothy and Elizabeth. Upon returning home, Ronald O'Brien gave the 5th piece of candy to a 10-year-old boy whom he recognised from his church. Just before bedtime, young Timothy asked to eat some of the candy that he collected. He finally chose a 22-inch pixie stick. Timothy was unable to get the powder candy out of the straw, so his father Ronald helped him loosen the powder. Immediately after tasting the candy, Timothy complained that it tasted bitter, so his father Ronald gave him some Kool-Aid to wash away the taste. But the Kool-Aid didn't help. Timothy immediately started vomiting and convulsing. Less than an hour after consuming the candy, Timothy O'Brien died while en route to the hospital in the back of an ambulance. At his son's funeral, Ronald Clark O'Brien, circled here in the picture, gave a heartfelt and tearful eulogy. Just days after the funeral, Ronald O'Brien told reporters, "It's so disheartening to think that there wasn't more we could do. We thought we were being so careful. We had even wondered if we should go out this year." The police didn't initially suspect Ronald O'Brien of any wrongdoing until Timothy's autopsy revealed that the pixie stick he consumed was laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide. Ronald O'Brien also tried to kill his daughter Elizabeth by putting cyanide poison in her pixie stick. Thankfully for Elizabeth, she went to bed early and didn't eat her candy. During the investigation, police learned that Ronald O'Brien was over $100,000 in debt. He was also suspected of theft at his job and was close to being fired. His car was also about to be repossessed. He had also defaulted on several bank loans and had already lost his house. The police discovered that in January 1974, Ronald O'Brien had taken out a $10,000 life insurance policy on both his children. 1 month before Timothy's death, O'Brien took out an additional $20,000 policy on both his children. Furthermore, on the days leading up to Halloween, Ronald O'Brien had taken out yet another $20,000 policy on both of his children. Police also learned that on the morning after Timothy's death on November 1st, Ronald O'Brien had called his insurance company to inquire about collecting the policies he had taken out on his son. He also contacted the local authorities and asked for 6 different death certificates. This is ultimately what led to his arrest. During his trial, Ronald O'Brien maintained his innocence. However, it took a jury 46 minutes to convict him and an hour and 5 minutes to sentence him to death. While incarcerated, as a child killer, he was very unpopular with his fellow inmates. With the friends that he did have, he spent most of his time playing dominoes and other board games. On March 31st, 1984, shortly after midnight, Ronald O'Brien was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit in Texas. He was pronounced dead at 12:48 a.m. Ronald O'Brien would have been strapped onto a gurney. 2 IVs then would have been inserted, one in each arm. Lethal injection is a series of drugs given in a set sequence designed to first induce unconsciousness, followed by death through paralysis of respiratory muscles and or by cardiac arrest. Outside there was a crowd of roughly 300 people, all chanting and cheering. Some of them could be heard shouting, "Trick or treat, Candyman, you got what you deserved." These were Ronald Clark O'Brien's last words. What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we as human beings do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs, yet doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also, to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask your forgiveness, just as I forgive anyone who has offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us respectively as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, know in your hearts I love you one and all. God bless you all, and may God's best blessings be always yours. Ronald C. O'Brien. P.S. During my time here, I have been treated well by all TDC personnel. Ronald O'Brien didn't just murder anyone, he murdered his own son, Timothy Mark O'Brien, 1966 to 1974. It's heartbreaking to think that a young boy lost his life all because of his father's greed.